I think at some point you'll start to feel like, I'm increasingly not relevant. A lot of things are attacking me indirectly and kind of, going down there. And I don't think people are ignorant. But sometimes you see the problem, you run away from it. Which is a whole gamut of why people do that. But manage your emotions, look at it, solve it. If not, very soon you are the one that's being solved.
Yeah. So the thing is, you just got to understand, right? This is your life. No one's coming to save you.
Welcome back to another episode of Wise and Shine. I'm your host, Dawn, aka SG Budget Babe, and I have a familiar face back with me. Don't know why.
Thank
no,
you.
We know why.
Thank you. Yes, because school holiday, Alex need to go and take care of kids, right? So
parenting duty is important. Government will approve.
Important. MSF looking for your sponsorship, Right. So yes, I'm your host. I'm your co-host, Reggie, joining. Very glad to be back with you. Actually, I miss hosting with you. I feel
know,
like we
right?
got a vibe.
I'm the best co-host,
yes,
right?
it's true. Okay, Anthony will say it's not, but it's, we got something going. So,
today's episode was also very exciting. I was like...
We had a great laugh before we record.
Yeah. And I think it's very interesting because at this time, especially with so many people wanting to go into learning how to code, how to enter tech. I mean, even I myself, I was telling our guests before this recording started, that when I read about it, I'm like, I also want to sign up, but I know time how.
No, she cannot. She's too busy.
So you want to introduce what today's topic is going to dive into?
But before that, right, I think the whole idea of learning to code has become a trope in the US. Like if you are not good enough, learn to code. If you are struggling, learn to code. If you are not doing well, learn to code.
But actually with AI, that could change.
Of course,
a lot of the coders are not going to exist there are not going to be enough job for these coders in the next
few years. None of us are going to exist in the next few years.
We got to all go back to blue collar work already.
Yes. Better not. It remains to be seen. But yes, today's episode, we're going to focus on Temus and team, right? Just to talk a little bit about their program, what you're doing and all the good stuff. Right.
But before we go there, we'll introduce our guest to you. So we have someone from Temus who's actually running the program, as well as someone who graduated from the program. And his success story is quite interesting. So we'll let them introduce themselves to you.
Yeah.
My name's Ridzuan. I run the Step It Up program at Temus, which is a career accelerator and career conversion program where we train non-tech talents to become tech professionals.
My name's Soh Wen Ming, but everybody calls me Wen. So I'm a beneficiary of the program that Ridzuan and Temus run. I joined up in April of 2023, graduated around July of 2023, and have been working with Temus and with team since. I was trained as a musician.
That's why I need to career convert, right? Not enough income.
But no, actually.
Okay, sorry. Before you tune out, I can see a comment section attacking me. But yes.
Singapore trying to cultivate the arts this year. Culture pass, don't like that, leh.
Yeah, don't lah. Because, NAC actually gave me money to go study.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Berklee College of Music also gave me money to go study.
Oh, you in Berklee?
Yeah. So that
you still go and learn how to code?
Yeah.
Okay. For all of you that don't know, Berklee is a very top-notch music school. But yes, just share about your story.
Well, I mean, so I did it. I was a session musician. So I was trained as a jazz musician, playing for, all kinds of people from Jeremy Montero to Stephanie Sun to Kit Chan. I had a bit of an entrepreneurial stint for a while where I was doing a F&B business. So we can talk about entrepreneurship if you want, and how there's no sanity when you're doing
it's as if jazz musician is not jala
enough.
You want to go and do F&B.
So the F&B even worse than being a jazz musician.
But so in my final job, before I actually joined up with Temus, they hired. So do you guys know what MDC is?
Music and Drama Company?
Yeah. So the music and drama company actually had outsourced its work to a civilian company called Soul Drama Entertainment. And so they needed somebody who had entrepreneurial experience, who was trained as a musician, to come in and manage 25 full-time musicians and all the NS boys who were sent there. So that was actually my very cushy, well-paying job before I decided to go and do this.
Okay. So why do you decide to do this?
When I was about 38, I had been in MDC for 2.5 years to 3 years. And then it hit me that, okay, well, I'm going to be 40 soon. If I don't get out by the time I'm 40, the likelihood that I'm ever going to get out is very, very low. I mean, realistically, there's nothing wrong with doing that job. I think it's a good job and it's a very honest living and you do good work. I just wasn't ready to accept that that would be the last thing I would be doing professionally. And I knew it would be hard to transition. If past a certain point, if that is the job I've done for 5 years, 10 years, if I was running a company and some guy said like, hey, I've been doing that for 10 years, I would also like think like, okay, but can this guy actually work somewhere else? And so I needed to know. I wanted to know whether I could still do it on the outside. And because I had gotten my work to such a point where it was pretty efficient, I had free time during the day to study, even while during work hours, and I still got everything done. Like I got like good ratings from all my superiors and everything, but there was time. And so I started learning how to code by myself in that time that I had versus, sitting around and drinking coffee at the coffee shop. Learn to do something, right? And then I started to realize like, okay, like I really like this. It's very hard.
You like to code.
Huh?
You realize that you like to code.
Yeah. It actually started, believe it or not, with me like trying to automate myself out of some processes. Yeah. And then slowly like I made like some small Python script that said, okay, like if I run this, then like this will save me, 15 minutes every day. So I just did it and then I did it and then I was like, oh, okay, now I don't even have to do this because this is automated.
See, we're not going to lose our jobs.
Yeah, so it actually started with me trying to automate myself out of my job, right? And I realized like, yeah, this is what I like doing. It feels very hard. It's honestly not easy, right? Learning how to do it. But it feels more like I'm playing a video game that is very, 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 very difficult, but is fun versus what I remember of studying textbooks that I hated and I didn't know why I was studying. And so I started trying to find a way to transition and took a while. And then I came across the program that Temus was offering. And then I jumped through every hoop that was required. And then I was lucky enough to get picked. And then that's the story.
Wow. So you started first by realizing that you actually like to code. But that might not be the case for every applicant that comes through your doors, right, Ridzuan? Is that your experience?
But we do kind of look for people who have that interest or have that passion to want to get into the tech space, right? And people like him who've dabbled, who've kind of automated certain parts of their life. Those are the profiles that really stand out to us. They may not have, gone through like 4 years of computer science in university or whatever, right? But they show that passion of wanting to get into the space. But for some reason or other, they started their career somewhere else. Yeah.
Some reason.
You're not going to let this go, right?
This music thing is gonna...
I got too many musician friends, so I know too much about the thing going on. Okay.
We probably have common friends.
Yeah, we probably have common friends.
That's a great tip there because I read on your website that you guys usually get like thousands of applicants. But how many slots are actually available each time?
Yeah, so every batch, we get about 800 to 1,000 people signing up for the program. They are whittled down to about 22 to 25 slots each for each run. So it's a pretty competitive process.
Very competitive.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to apply, you want to stand out, you know what to do.
You must
You
have
just
some
say
code,
it.
test some things, play
Automate
around.
yourself.
Automate yourself, then you can show, okay? But before that, maybe walk us through like what is this program? What are you
how
all
did
trying
this
to do? How
start?
did this start?
Sure. So Temus itself is a digital transformation services firm. It's a mouthful, right? But what we essentially do is IT consulting, right? We work with our clients, whether in the public sector or private sector space, right, to help them digitalize their internal processes, build apps and stuff like that. So operating in this space, right, talent is scarce, right? So when we started out thinking about the Step It Up program, we decided to look elsewhere for the talent, right? Not just, the computer science, people with computer science background. So we wanted to expand the digital talent pool, which is why we started the program. The program itself is broken up into a 4-month bootcamp before they transition into a 1-year OJT period where they become Temus employees and we deploy them to the project that we serve our clients with.
So it's like those hair salon chains and those bakery chains that have their own school, right? You train because you cannot hire enough people. So you set up your own school to train people to then work. Right, that's kind of what I know, not as glam, but this is a
Yoga studio also.
yeah,
same.
right. You kinda
Yeah,
train-
yoga would be a better analogy than your hair salon
Okay,
and
but it's a
bakery.
thing. Okay, so it's a
No, but okay,
it's
so
not
the
a
big difference, okay? Yoga studio, you pay to get your certification.
Mm.
This one you get paid
this
while
one
you're
you get
getting
paid.
Okay, yeah.
Can
So-
say how much?
So during the bootcamp training period, right, they are paid a 3K stipend.
Hey, that's not bad. Paid 3K to study.
Yeah. So and it's literally 9 to 6 every day in a classroom setting, physically in our offices, and they go through the training program. They go through certifications and all that. It's a pretty intense period. I think one can attest to it, right? And I think that 3K helps them a lot before they actually transition and become our full-time employees, lah.
But as
The
a
three-
company, 3K.
No, the 3K is from Skills Future, right?
So.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask where the 3K come
It's
from.
Skills
So
Future.
maybe what you're trying to get is where do you get our funding?
Yeah,
Yes, where does the money
yeah.
come from?
We fund the program ourselves, right?
Ah.
But we do get support from IMDA through the TESA what do you call that, company-led training program, right? They offset a bit of the training costs, a bit of the salary and the stipends that we pay to our trainees during the program.
Okay.
No, but I think it's not bad because 3,000 to learn a skill that you can actually later use. And when they graduate from this boot camp, can that certificate be recognized or used elsewhere if, let's say, they choose not to continue with Temus?
Depending on the run that we do, right, our trainees graduate with different types of certificates. So the trainees from Wen's batch, they actually obtain the OutSystems Developer certificate. So that certificate itself, I think, is recognized, lah. And there are low-code practices out in the industry that are looking for software developers, and a certificate like that would help him if he were to look for a job, lah.
You know, you tell you don't look for a job yet. Wait a bit longer
Oh,
lah.
look, I
Stay
mean,
on the team a bit longer.
I mean, like I'm sure you also know that like we do get calls. We have people like getting in touch with us.
Of course,
Recruiters.
they do the difficult job.
Correct.
Right?
You know.
You've trained the people, you transition them from musicians to.
So look, I mean,
Yeah.
I may sound like a corporate stooge, right, by saying this, but so they paid us to study. They pay for our cert. And not just that, like in the years that I've been working there, it's first of all a KPI to get more and more certs that the company is paying for. And then it's also okay if you want to take more than the company will pay for, and they will still pay.
Okay, fair. So everything sounds hunky-dory, right? Like, sounds great. Maybe you walk us through like how crazy is this process, right? Because you're the survivor, right?
The
Survivor
boot camp.
bias, right? So tell us the boot camp.
Yeah, tell us
you
what
know?
it is. I
Yeah,
almost
what
wanted
it
to
is.
sign up.
It's
So
like,
how
yeah.
does it look
How
like
does
if
it
I
look
went
like?
through
Yes,
it?
exactly.
I think when our candidates first sign up, I always give a warning shot to everyone. I'll say that this is a very intense program, especially during the boot camp, right? You are going from 0 to 1. And we want that commitment from you, and we want you to put in the effort, right? In return, we'll provide the necessary training, the necessary support, right? In terms of mentorship, in terms of coaching and all that. But I can't sugarcoat it, right? It's always very intense, especially during the 4-month boot camp. And maybe
Intense means what? Like they are there from 9 to 6 or they go home still need to do homework.
Of course, must have homework lah. No man.
I'm sure one can
It's okay, yeah. Maybe you
elaborate a
share
little
with
bit.
us.
There were days where I slept over at the office just to get my projects done. I think when we were getting towards the capstone project period, I was working like 16 hours a day just to get everything done. But I can't speak for all my batchmates, right? I don't think any of it was anything that I didn't want to do. Well, I guess, yes, if I didn't finish my projects and pass my exams, then at some point I would fail out of the program. So maybe there was some kind of pressure. But I think a lot of the pressure that we felt was very internal, because I can safely say that, everybody who was there really, really, really wanted to be there, right? And I think that's very rare that you come across like a group of 17, 18 people where actually everybody is full on and trying to get this done. So yeah, it's very intense. There were weeks where I was sleeping only 3 or 4 hours a day. But I can tell you honestly, I loved it, right? And being a person who had been, working for a long time, it was a really, really nice thing to get paid to be a student, no matter how hard it was. Right? I'm sure you can relate. Like somebody's paying me. So when I go out to work, right, nobody is paying me to get better. People are paying me to already be good, whether it's as a musician or as a person who flips burgers or as a manager, right? In this case, these people are taking me and saying, yeah, you don't know, I pay you to get good at this. And thankfully, I was old enough and mature enough to understand that that's a big deal. So
When you say, okay, I'm asking this for all, like, and also maybe for, a bit for myself. So I'm sure among our listeners, there are people who have a lot of family commitments, right? We have folks who are part of the sandwich generation, or like in my case, my dad is wheelchair bound. My 2 young kids are below 7. When I knock off, basically, I have to teach them homework. In fact, I don't even get to work 9 to 6, work from home these days anymore, because the moment they come back, I have to handle them. So what is the profile of the people that you generally see in the course, in the bootcamp, in terms of their family and life profile?
And maybe I add one more question before you ask. Right. So were you already like full-time doing the program, or does the program require you to quit your job and then just do full-time? Right. So I think that's definitely a big concern for the target audience. Yeah.
So the program requires you to. So what we offer is a training contract and then an employment contract. So essentially, what we want you to do is to come in fresh and quit whatever you were doing to join us. That itself is a big commitment. And to your point, right, the profile that we see is a very wide range of people. There are people who freshly graduated from university. There are people like Wen, who's 10, 15 years into his career and looking for something to change. And there are people who are just like fresh, maybe just had 4 or 5 years in their career and they're looking to change. In terms of people who have families, we do accept profiles like that. And Wen was one of those when he joined us, right? He had 1 daughter.
I had 2 kids.
2 kids.
Yeah.
So as part of that warning shot that I normally give people even before they join the program is that, for at least during those 4 months, be prepared to say goodbye to your loved ones. Put in everything that you have for those 4 months, and you'll see light at the end of that 4 months lah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
Oh, you didn't look like you had 2 kids, but could you then tell us how was
the experience? Yeah.
How do you manage your family part while doing this?
Oh, yeah, simple.
I feel like
life, right?
as the podcast move along, I have more respect for you lah.
Not as a well, hey man.
Hey, 2 kids. Okay, Kang, tell me more.
The simple fact is, first of all, my wife is awesome, and
It's always a team effort.
no, of course. When I was telling our friends that I was going to do this, I just said, yeah, my wife is awesome because she must be when it was April 2023, and that's when all the news of like the meltdowns of tech were actually starting. So I was telling people, like, I have this cushy government job. I have 2 kids, and my wife is actually supporting me to like basically like set it all on fire to go and be a trainee in the middle of tech when everything is melting down. And she's like, yeah, go and do what you believe you should do. And our relationship has been since I was in college, like studying music. And it was kind of the same thing. Like, I remember there was so when I got to school, I thought I was like a hot shot, because I was like a scholar, everything. And then you go there and you realize like, okay, but like this is the Mecca, right?
Everyone is a scholar.
Yeah, everyone is a scholar. Everybody is great.
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
really nothing, And so I remember there was a week that I called her up. I couldn't get to class because I was like so depressed, wondering how I was going to deal with all this. And she didn't say anything. She just listened. And then at the end of the week, I just said, okay, well, like I'm just going to decide that while I'm here, my job is to be the best like music student I can be. And after I'm done, even if I never play music again, I have to figure it out later. So I just need to ask you, do you want to be somebody who's making these life decisions? And she's very cool. She just said, look, I think that if we ever are in a situation that we need money, you're not dumb. You'll find a way to make money. So very few people get to go and study what they like to do on somebody else's dollar. So you should just finish. So she's awesome, right? Yeah, she's awesome. And then when we had to go through this thing together, one person, she power both the kids. You know,
And
she's
how old were your daughters at that point in time?
So it's like 2 years ago, right? So we're talking like 5 and 3.
Oh, intense.
Yeah,
Intense.
wow,
Yeah, we
intense.
don't. I mean, we're very lucky that we have grandparents that are both retired, so they both help. But we don't have a helper. We're also very fortunate that she's a Pilates teacher and a very good Pilates teacher, and so she also like helps and works and because her hourly rate is a good hourly rate, then it has flexibility. Yeah. So I mean, like, look, it takes a lot of things to come together to allow me to go and like do this thing, right? So we shouldn't just pretend that
Takes a whole kampong to raise a family.
So the
right?
morning shot should be it's intensive, not just for you as a trainee, but for your family also.
Of course. So you must ask Nick whether he approved.
No, I don't think he'll do it. Sorry.
Okay. But maybe share with us a little bit more details in the program, right? So there's the training part, which is the 4-month, and then there's a 12-month OJT, right? On-job training. So how does that whole thing look
Actually,
like? in
maybe
more
before we
detail?
go there,
Yeah,
can we talk about the 0 to 1 first? So how exactly within just 4 months do you get them from 0 to 1, whereby the clients are then comfortable that these same people who were 0 just 4 months ago are actually working on the project?
So the program is structured in a way that we
to kill
just
you. Work like
yeah. So
grind, do it.
I don't want the only takeaway to be it's very intense and you have to
it's
take
very
it, right?
intense.
It's structured, right? You have the technical training, right, where you learn how to code for developers and stuff like that. And we also have the soft skills part of it, right, where we teach you communication, leadership skills and stuff like that. And we have mentors assigned to our trainees, essentially who are experienced professionals who can, tell them, hey, this part is tough, but we can help you along the way, right? And that the mentorship continues when they start on the job, right? We don't just throw them to the wolves and say, hey, you're squad on your own. This is the client. Figure out the problem that he has. Please solve it. Create an app or something, right? We don't do that, right? We assign more experienced people along with them so that they work together and learn on the job, right? That's why it's called on-the-job training, right? You have to have someone senior who's done it, who's seen it, who can tell you, hey, this is wrong. It's not the best way to approach it, but you should approach it this way. So I think that's where we gain the confidence of the clients, right? And yeah, I think so far our clients have been receptive to profiles from we call them transformers after they graduate.
They're asking for my reaction. Okay, great.
Zoom in.
Approve Transformers. Wow. Yes. Okay. So just to be clear, right? I give our audience a bit more color. So, finance people, so 3K is during the 4-month of training or throughout the 16 months?
No. So during the 4 months of training is 3K. When you start your employment with us,
you're considered full-fledged.
You're a full-time employee.
Wow, okay.
We offer you a salary that's competitive for an entry-level position.
So there's variance across the cohort.
There will be variance, I think, perhaps from cohort to cohort depending on the role.
Okay.
So I think
so it's role specific,
yes,
not individual specific.
Yes. So I think the other part that sets our program apart is that for each run that we do, right, we're actually hiring for a specific role. And we're not just giving you like a skill and just letting you figure out what to do with the skill. We're hiring for a specific role. We're training you to do the job, right? So we've had runs where we train low-code developers. We've run where we train digital business analysts, who are essentially I call them the translators between the business and the programmers. Yeah.
Okay, fair. So then maybe you give us a bit more color on like the kind of success rate or the kind of profiles, because I could kind of imagine that, okay, great. So everything sounds good, right? But they're bound to have dropouts. Bound to
How
have
many people
dropouts,
don't continue after they're done
of
with
course,
the
we hope
bootcamp?
everybody succeed, right? And then with like what, close to 1,000 people competing for 20 seats to begin with, you really go through quite a rigorous process. Yeah, but then what is the kind of reality through the program?
We have about 92% retention rate after the entire 16-month OJT plus the bootcamp, right? So after a year working with us, we have about 90 to 92% people still working with us. And essentially, when I speak to them, or for those who want to leave after that year, right, I tell them to stick to it, right? Gain that experience, and before you explore your options, right? And I think 90% is pretty healthy lah, as compared to our retention
it
rates.
is.
Yeah.
Very
Are there
healthy.
people who leave after the bootcamp?
People tend not to leave after the bootcamp.
Because they
If they-
survived the grueling.
Yeah. Correct. So during the bootcamp, there are people who drop out. So, but that's a very small number. I think out of the 59 people that we've trained so far, during the bootcamp phase itself, I think about 4 only dropped out. Yeah, so-
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah.
I want to ask about resources. So it mustn't be easy having to delegate resources to train an entire batch for the bootcamp, and then later on having managers to help ease these transformers into those projects and the workforce, right? In terms of percentage, how much of your manpower resources are carved out, and do they only do this, or do they do this on top of their other job scopes?
It's interesting you delineated between the training and the people who mentor, right? So during the training part, we do work with external training providers to be the technical trainers. We have an in-house, we call her the coach, right? Who runs soft skills training, who are essentially the coach for them, right? She manages their emotions throughout the program, right? So like because it gets intense, people get
Of course.
people
Got
get a bit
breakdown,
disillusioned. Yeah.
I
So
mean, you sleep 3 hours a day, what you expect,
she
right?
manages
Confirm
the
breakdown.
emotions, convinces them to stick it through and all that. And the other part to it is the resources from our staff, right? Who come in to mentor our transformers, right? That's a very huge commitment on the part of the business, right? It's over and on top of their daily job. It starts during the bootcamp and it continues when they go on the job, right?
So the mentors who are doing the on-job training with them are already there with them during the bootcamp as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So to give you an example, so I work on the project for SIM, right? Singapore Institute of Management, and the software architect was also my mentor during the program. And we also work very closely, and we work very closely the whole way from day one of me being an actual employee. And so it is a lot of work on his part, I mean, I always tell people the reality is that as a developer, if this is your first job, in terms of productivity, you're probably a net negative for the first 6 months. No, and that's just something that we have to be very cognizant about, right? If you count your salary plus the amount of man hours that a high level person has to spend training you, it's actually an investment on the company's part, And so the way I've always actually measured my progress is how many hours do I need to speak to him a week? And if I find that it's less and less and less and less, yeah. And that also basically translates to, in some way or form, I'm saving the company money, right? Because every hour that I can do the work myself and I don't need to bother him, that's a very valuable hour I'm saving the company.
Yeah, fair. So I get it, right? So the program is set up, there's a feeder kind of situation where you feed into the team. That's why you run this whole program. Actually, it's quite cool, right? I think most industry leaders at some point struggle with talent. So if you set up, a whole talent funnel for yourself, it kind of gives you that competitive advantage to scale on the back end, right? So from a business standpoint, I think that is very cool. Yeah, but from someone that go through the lived experience standpoint,
The survivor
the
standpoint.
survivor, it's from the thousands of sign up, 20 people go through and then you continue. If someone is thinking about this program, you shared a little bit of your story. Any other things you want to share with them so that they can write this properly and do well?
So I think a lot of people think that it's glamorous work. It's not. I mean, we have a nice pantry. We don't have a Google pantry, Like a lot of people think that it's extremely high paying. But just like everything, right? If you play basketball, if you happen to be Michael Jordan, you get paid a Michael Jordan rate. And if you're not, then there's all kinds of different leagues. And you can work your way up the league. But you have to understand that, what you see on YouTube is just a representation of reality, right? So fundamentally, if you're only in it for the money, there are probably better ways to make money, if that's all you care about. Now, if you want a job that is mentally stimulating and interesting, and you have to be built in a way that you enjoy the work, and if you want to enjoy the work, then it's great, But I think it also should be said that it's not for everyone, and not everybody needs to learn to code. And my wife, for example, based on her skill set, I don't think what she does can ever be automated, right? And she makes good money doing it. And she's very good at it and she's fulfilled at it. So why does she need to learn the code? I'm not that lucky, I got to learn the code, you know.
Not as fulfilled being a jazz musician.
Well, I mean, so the story of that is when I was a musician, you know, I got pretty good at it. But I always kind of knew that like I got good at it because it was the first thing in my life that I like enough to put a lot of hours working at it. And then I just figured, okay, well, if I'm not a prodigy, but it's just like a lot of hard work, then what if I put a lot of hard work into something else? But I still have to like it, right? If I don't like it, then I'm not going to put the same amount of work. So I'm very lucky that I think for anybody, you know, in your life to find even one thing that you would be happy to like work your ass off doing it, you're very lucky because you get to experience something that a lot of people don't get to. You know, even if you don't succeed, just the fact that you like something enough to work at it. And I got it twice, right? So just for that alone, I feel fortunate already.
Okay. But objectively, are you paid more now than when you were a jazz musician?
No, I was making good money as a musician.
Exactly, right?
Right. Yeah, I was actually making pretty good money as a musician. I was making very good money working for the government. What I will say is that as an artist, you will find a lot of the times that the things that pay you the best are not the things that you wanted to do as an artist, right? And that's just a reality. And so it became very clear to me that like, okay, well, if some of these things I'm really just doing just for money, then there are a lot of things I can do for money.
Yeah, it does not mean that you can't play jazz now, right? Like you can still gig and on the weekends and all that. And
but seriously, I mean, if you're just looking to make a living, right, and you are not picky about the work, I'm going to tell you there's a lot of money to be made in music, right?
Okay, great.
And final question I wanted to ask, you know, some people, because they get laid off, right, or they get retrenched, something happens in their life, they have to step away from work. So when they try to get back, it's not that easy. And this could be really something that saves them and helps them to transit in a very natural manner while still being paid decently for it. I mean, 3K, I could run, I'm budget babe. I know the 3 times the average household is 6K, but with 3K, I could technically run my household.
Right? Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't be too difficult. Just need like cut a few things here and there. But then when your profile is very different, because you actually left something that your family agreed was cushy to go into this. And would you recommend that to people in your shoes as well, whereby, you know, you're in a good place right now. There's nothing that's jeopardizing your job, but you don't know what your next 5 years might be. And, you know, you're turning 40, you take this chance to jump out before it's too late.
And maybe just to add on that, would you say you are actually positioning for the future then?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is, I think I was in as much of an iron rice bowl position as you can have in this day and age, which doesn't mean that it's an iron rice bowl position because it just doesn't exist. But as much as possible, that's what I had, right? So I firmly believe that real security is in skills and in being employable. And I think one of the main things that was really grating at me every day when I was there is like every day that I do this other cushy job is a day that I give up and I'm accepting that the skills that could make me marketable to everybody except this job, that's atrophying. That's the trade I'm making. And I think a lot of people feel it in the jobs that they make, right? Like I do this thing, I'm good at it. And as long as, you know, like nothing collapses, then we just pray and hope that this will go on until I get to retire.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think like that.
Yeah. And it's a very real thing, right? So I think, I don't think I can prescriptively tell you whether you should or shouldn't. But I think that every single day that you do it, you should be measuring whether you feel like you're making the right choice. And I don't think it's a bad thing to ask yourself that question. I think it's very dangerous to not ask yourself that question. Because the reality is that the longer you make that trade, where you say, I'm just going to take the money, I'm just going to take my paycheck, and I know that if this thing falls apart, then I'll just deal with it then. Well, the then when you're like 50 is a lot harder, right? I know people who are trying to do the exact same thing at 50. It's hard. It's really hard. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, try your best to be self-aware, right? And try your best to take a measured approach. And to also, I guess, keep your loved ones in the loop of how you're thinking about it. So I think it would be very hard for my wife to accept it if I just say, hey, you know, I just want to go and like do this thing and live my dream. And because I like tech. But it was like many, many, many conversations about like, yeah, you know, I'm doing this job. I know it keeps us safe, but I want to keep us. I want to know that we'll be safe like for a very long time. And as a person, the way I'm built, the only way I know how to do that is to make sure that I know that what I can do can be worthwhile to someone. You know what I mean? Like if all of this falls apart, everybody talks about how AI is going to automate anything, right? Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know. But I also I also understand that the person who comes to clean my house, right? Like she makes a certain amount per hour. And if you just do some simple math, then you know that she's making bank. And I don't have a problem with doing that if I'm put in a position where that's what I need to do. So yeah, I mean, my advice would just be like, understand that this is your life, right? This is your game to play. No one is coming to save you. And I got a great opportunity with Temus. That's the truth, right? And not everybody gets a shot. And the only thing that you have that is within your control is how much you prepare so that you're ready to take advantage of an opportunity that you get. That's all you can do.
That's a great perspective, which actually leads me my next question, Ridzuan. What's the oldest age?
I had the same
Of
question
your
in my head. But yes,
cohort.
go.
It's not me, right?
No, it's not you.
Because he said if you do it in your 50s, it'll be even harder, right? So I was like, yeah, what's the oldest person?
Someone who was a stay-at-home mom,
Oh my god, so slay,
whose daughters or whose children grew up to a certain age where she felt that she could return to the workforce. When we interviewed her, we found her profile interesting and she really wanted that chance and we gave it to her. So I think she's probably mid-40s.
Nice, nice. That is very cool. Very, very cool.
So really no one in their 50s.
Not
It's
yet.
okay.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So-
Not yet.
But you can
sign
apply.
Up. You can sign up. Maybe you are the one. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think this was very enlightening. Thank
Very
you for
fun.
sharing. I
Very fun.
really like how real this was, and you guys didn't try to sugarcoat
Yeah, I
that the
love it.
program would be easy. You've been warned, it's been intensive, but I really like your perspective as well because, you know, in life, in our careers, especially when we give up something that we're already good at and comfortable with, it takes a lot more courage than when you're being forced to do it because your company asks you. And I think for a lot of people, it's really that fear, right? It's like, I'm good at it, it's comfortable now, but should I risk it all to try something that I don't even know whether I'll succeed? And your perspective, especially that whole part of a trophy, I think it gives you guys, our
Definitely.
listeners, a lot to think about. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. Thank you for coming on to share with us.
Thank you.
Any last?
Fix the roof when it's not raining, right? Because I think the base idea is, I think at some point you'll start to feel like, I'm increasingly not relevant. You know, a lot of things are attacking me indirectly and kind of, going down there. And I don't think people are ignorant. But sometimes you see the problem, you run away from it.
Yep.
Right? Which is a whole gamut of why people do that, but manage your emotions, look at it, solve it. If not, very soon you are the one that's being solved.
Yeah. So the thing is, you just got to understand, right? This is your life. No one's coming to save you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for coming
guys.
on.
Thank you.
That was so
Thanks
fun.
for the
That was
opportunity.
so fun. Yeah. All the best. All the best. We wish you well.
So thank you for tuning in to this episode of Wise and Shine. We hope that you guys have enjoyed it. And if you want to learn more about what they do, is there a website they can go to?
Yes, stepitup.temus.com is where you can find more information about the program.
And that's where you can actually figure out whether this might be your next move or maybe ask your company to implement something similar. I don't know, but there's lots of ideas to be taken away from here, lots of insights. So thank you for tuning in and we'll see you guys on the next episode of Wise and Shine.
And don't forget, if you love what we are doing, go to thefinancialcoconut.com, put in your email address so that you can stay updated about the latest happenings across the Financial Coconut. With that, I think that's the end. Okay,
We'll see you in the next episode.
See you next
Bye.
week.